Hey, another Venom movie. I guess this is the last. What a goddamn waste of everybody's fucking time this turned out to be, right? You got Venom, a comic franchise that, let's be honest, was never very good. A character who was never really all that interesting conceptually, outside of a visual design. A couple of writers have taken it and done interesting things with it, basically by throwing stuff out and starting again. But really, this is like the epitome of 90s edgelord bullshit, occasionally repurposed into cool alien stuff, but mostly pretty disposable. Looks cool on a t-shirt, that's the beginning and end of it, which, fine, okay, not all of these have to be high art. Mostly functions as a way to continually fuck up the Spider-Man movie franchise, or cartoon franchise, or whatever outside of the comics, because every time they start to get going into some kind of interesting place, everyone loses their shit, because, oh no, you've got to stop and veer off into the black suit stuff, or the Venom stuff, and instead of doing whatever more interesting stuff there might be to do from the comics, or an interesting original stuff you might want to do in the franchise, because everyone wants to see the black suit and it's so marketable and merchandisable, and then you have to tank everything to just do Venom, and it never ends up working out. So at least now, for a while, even though the MCU Spider-Man stuff with Tom Holland has been decidedly kind of a mixed bag, they've been able to skirt this because they went and had to cordon off Venom into his own thing in these Sony movies, all of which are basically disposable garbage, that for a hot minute there, fans and the film press, fans were gonna eat it up anyway, no matter what, because it's Venom doing Venom things and making the face and biting heads off, and oh my god, there's blood in a comic book movie, this is so new and revelatory, because apparently this genre was invented in the 2000s and there was nothing before that, so wow, this is a new invention, look, red stuff. And in the midst of all this trash, you've got Tom Hardy at least kind of doing the Nicolas Cage, hey, I'm just gonna act my ass off and do weird stuff and pull faces. Now, unlike Nicolas Cage, who actually always is giving a performance, Tom Hardy just kinda seems to be fucking around in these movies and stumbles into a sort of interesting turn in the first Venom. Since it was Venom, it made like $1 billion worldwide. Did you ever see how that thing where they advertised this in China by pretending it was a goofy romantic comedy in the ads and just kind of hoping people showed up anyway, and it worked? And then they made the other one with Woody Harrelson, and then people should be like, oh my god, Carnage is gonna be in this one. Doesn't everyone love Carnage? Sure. And then that one sucked. But they teased out Marvel connections, so people got all up in their heads about it. Didn't happen. Now we've got this third one, which is sort of doing the Deadpool 3 thing, where everyone in the movie is sort of tacitly meta acknowledging that this is the last one because we're probably going to shove Tom Holland into a black suit in the next one because Secret Wars. So this is the end for this version of Venom and everyone knows it. But whereas the Deadpool movie was being snarky and dismissive and goofy because Deadpool about the end of that version of the franchise and X-Men and sort of having a bit of a laugh, quasi-sincerely pretending that people were really that upset to see the Fox version of the Marvel stuff go away. You know, it's like been long enough that people can pretend to look back with rose-colored glasses on fucking Elektra or whatever. This one is Venom and Eddie Brock doing a road trip thing because Null from the comics, the evil father of Venom and the symbiotes, is sending his minions down to Earth to chase Venom because Venom has the Codex that will let him out of his dark dimension and come to Earth and do comic book bad guy bullshit. And of course, we're all supposed to be excited that Null is here now because, oh god, Null, thank goodness. The MCU Spider-Man movies haven't, as I said already, been enough of a mixed bag. Now we get to have this boring anime-ass Final Fantasy bad guy bullshit stinking up the place instead of any of the actual interesting Spider-Man bad guys or, I don't know, an original to the movies idea that might be in here.
We have something my creator needs. There's a key that would free him. I will annihilate your world.
I mean, best case scenario we can hope for from Null is that Marvel hires another Taika Waititi or James Gunn level talent to come in and perform some narrative surgery on this character, make him actually interesting, and then all the fanboys will get pissed about it because he's been made interesting. Not in a great mood, can you tell? But in my defense, I just had to watch the third Venom movie. In any case, the idea here is that Venom and Eddie are on a road trip, running away from the bad guys, because a road trip movie is what you do when you're down to just two characters and some of the supporting cast in one-off cameos from your other movies. And instead of being snarky about the meta end of the franchise stuff like Deadpool was, this one wants to be maudlin about it. So it's mostly Venom and Eddie going from place to place and humming along with boomer Gen X comics or soft rock stuff, and being weirdly wistful about clip show montages from the other Deadpool movies. Like, we're supposed to have all of these really sincere, happy memories. Oh yeah, remember that part where Venom was there? And remember that part where Venom looked at the camera? And that other part where Venom was there? And we saw Venom? And I don't know, maybe I'm out of touch. Do that many people have, like, super happy memories of the fucking Venom movies? Like, I thought we all sort of got onto the same page that this was a bad series of not very good movies that are mostly here because Tom Hardy does a funny voice and they worked out an interesting way to throw stuntmen around with the CGI goo tentacles. Speaking of which, once this one does get done fucking around, and I'll give it some credit, the maudlin stuff, you know, I'm a middle-aged man, so maudlin soft rock bullshit does basically work on me when it gets right, and they do hit the ultimate cliche of this, of having Venom and Eddie hitchhike on the road with a family of proto-hippies who are going to Area 51 because that's a plot point, because that is how out of ideas this movie is. They're going to literally Area 51 to look for other symbiotes, and they end up feeling like, oh, maybe Eddie should have had a family, but instead he can protect this one, and that's a redemption arc, and fine, okay, sure, that basically works. And the military guys are keeping a bunch of different colored symbiotes in tubes, so it can be a big Power Rangers with symbiotes fight against the bad guys at the end. Like, of course that's where it's going, and it's fine. Like, yeah, basically any one of these things is exactly bad enough that when it all just gives up any pretense to anything else and just turns into Power Rangers at the end, fine, good. Like, that basically works. If you want to see a bunch of, like, green, red, black, blue symbiotes all fighting a big monster, like, that's basically all this ever should have been, and now that's basically what it is in the last 10 minutes. I'm a sucker for monsters. There's a cool monster that's like the main antagonist thing, because Null literally does nothing but sit in his chair, swing the sword around for really no other reason than, I guess, for people to post online about whether that means that the sword in the Thor movie was the real sword. I don't fucking care. And it feels like it's trying to make me care about, like, any investment I might have had in this franchise. I never did, and I feel like most people's investment in it that claim to have it was kind of ironic about it, so it's weird to suddenly be sincere, and it doesn't track at all. The effects are decent for a Sony Marvel movie, which is to say better than Morbius, not great. And in terms of being weird, bad, but kind of a B movie, at least Madam Web was kind of authentically weird. So I can give it points for the monster stuff, decent monster stuff, but like I never cared for Venom in the first place, so I'm not gonna start now. Like, if I felt sad about anything by the end of this, I mostly felt sad for Tom Holland, because it feels like all of this is just leaning into, okay, we need to clear the board off of this because we're gonna make him do this now. They gave us like this big embargo about don't spoil it, don't tell anyone. I don't know what there is to spoil. There's 2 mid-credit scenes. One is a joke and the other one is just reminding you that Null is here, and I feel like if you don't know who Null is from the comics or anything like this, it's just vampire Spider-Man Sephiroth, and it's either as exciting or as boring to you as that. Like, if those 3 words in combo sound like the most boring horse shit ever to you, you're exactly right. And if that sounds exciting to you, please touch the grass, I guess. I don't know. This is bad. It would actually be better if it were worse. Like, I know people are sick of that criticism from me, and I should probably, like, maybe do a whole thing and explain what that means. But, like, if the $40 million version of this, where the symbiotes in Venom were big gloppy rubber suit monsters and was a whole lot more disjointed and weird and was gorier, messier, more naughty and dirty, something more on the lines of like a Psycho Gorman that was not as self-aware, would be a better version of this than this is. You know, I'm sure like kids who are too young sneaking into it might feel like they're getting away with something, but not really by much, and there's nastier stuff you can just watch on TV. I feel like it's trying to be some kind of like summation on a moment in time when there were Venom movies, and I'm just kind of glad to see that moment end. But, you know, maybe it'll be exactly like all that shit in Deadpool 3 when they start doing some of this stuff in the real Marvel movies, and suddenly the crummier, older version looks special by comparison. I don't know. Call this, I guess, maybe a 3 out of 10. Sure, that sounds generous, but okay. Yeah, happy Halloween.